So, Crystal, I still have more questions for you. I know you shared a bit on your TikTok, but I just want you to maybe share more to the audiences who have not seen your TikToks.
Sure.
How do you deal with passive-aggressive people, like your colleagues?
Oh my God.
Egotistical people who are not so don't really enjoy feedback. It's a bit difficult to critique their work.
Passive-aggressive.
They make sarcastic remarks.
Right. So rather than being direct with you,
Yeah.
they actually try to make negative comments through an indirect way or hinting,
Yes.
right? So my number one piece of advice would be you need to call them out on these comments, right? And in a way that is from a place of curiosity. Yeah, no, seriously. So let's say somebody is making like these very passive aggressive comments like, oh, yeah, Crystal will give you this piece of work, but you probably can't do it lah because you're very busy.
Yeah, you're so busy lah. You're just using your phone all the time.
Yeah, so now I can either ignore the comment, right? In which case you're just kind of encouraging this toxic behavior, or I can actually call it out, but in a skillful way. So what I would say is that, hey, Jian Hao, I'm a bit curious about that last comment that you made,
Call it as
because our working relationship is really important for me. And I have always valued and respected that we could be honest and transparent with each other. Yeah. So I'm just very curious that when you said, that you think that I'm really busy and everything, is there something something specific that I'm not doing at work, not supporting, that I could support you with more, that's leading you to believe that I'm too busy? Because I want to clarify that I always have time for important priorities. Something like that, right?
Yeah, do you feel that perhaps often a lot of Singaporeans do not necessarily have that EQ to approach such a civil conversation like this?
Yeah, a lot of times they say to me,
reply
like,
with another sarcastic remark, or it just becomes a cold war.
Yeah, sometimes people say to me like, I don't have all the beautiful words to use. Yeah, so but I think if you can also put it simpler. It's like, Jian Hao, I don't know rightly or wrongly, but I've been sensing in the past week, there seems to me that you've made a few comments about, me not being present or me being too busy. And when you make these comments, the story I tell myself, rightly or wrongly, is that maybe you think that my heart's not in this job. And I wanted to share, to clear this up with you and see whether is that actually how you feel, or am I just like reading the situation wrong? Is there anything I could be doing that, makes you feel more supported in this relationship or whatever it is? So like something simple like that.
Yeah.
Does that sound okay to you?
I think it sounds okay, but I feel like in my position, of course, most people won't approach me that way.
Yeah.
But I think to colleagues, most likely that should be the ideal outcome for a conversation.
I think it's about saying to somebody that, look, I want you to feel supported. And sometimes when I hear these comments, I worry that there's something I'm doing that's creating some unhappiness with you.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it takes a lot of self-control to not lash out in with certain emotions, and approach it in such a conversation.
Or like a calm and more professional manner.
Yeah, like imagine like there's people like talking shit about you, like right in front, and then you're so calm to be like, hey, is there something?
I'm just curious.
Is there an issue that you
you
have with me?
I would say that like you have to take it offline.
Right.
Never, when somebody's making passive aggressive comments in front of a large room or whatever other people, you do not address it in front of everyone. Okay, you
Pull
need to
them aside.
You need to pull them aside and say like, hey, I want to have a discussion with you in a private.
It has to
context.
be professional.
Has to be professional, but also this is like, because if you do it in front of everyone, they're going to be defensive. Or they're going to be sarcastic, or they're going to make, because it is a bit shaming.
Or it'll be more
And
passive
they're putting out a
aggressive,
performance in front of everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So one good tip is that normally when somebody is being passive aggressive, it's normally coming from a place of, somehow they've detected you as a threat. Okay, something you're doing, something you're behaving is making the alarm bell in their brain ring, and they're going like threat, 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 right? So the first thing you would need to do in this conflict situation is pull them aside in a safe environment. So psychological safety, make sure that it's not like somewhere very open that other people can see, but, pull them in a small meeting room where it's very private, and then say, hey, look, I want to discuss, something that's been on my mind. Today morning during a team meeting, you made this specific comment. And when this comment was made, rightly or wrongly, I want to share with you, this is where you don't go on the finger pointing and like, you were arrogant, you were wrong, but instead you turn the finger around and you want to say, when you said those words, I felt worried. I felt disappointed. Or I felt concerned. What is it you feel? Because when you point at them, they're going to be defensive and like, right. No, I wasn't arrogant. I didn't do that. I. But when you turn it around and say, my experience of that situation was that I was hurt, I was disappointed, I was whatever, they're not going to be able to argue and say, no, you weren't hurt. No, you weren't disappointed. No, you didn't feel that way, right?
I do have a follow-up question from there though.
Yes.
Like a lot of people, I think generally, like people like myself, I feel like if I say the word I too many times, it makes me sound like I'm too self-centered. Like I'm putting my problems upon other people. But would that be like, how do you break through that in a scenario like this? How do I explain further that, this is how I'm feeling, but I'm not trying to sound like I'm super self-centered?
Can you give me a specific example?
For example, right, like let me just give you because this sounds very similar to like my marriage preparation course. I'm just going to be very frank with you.
Sure.
So they painted a scenario whereby like they say, okay, here is how I'm feeling when you do this. So it's sort of like addressing both sides. But me as a general person, I just not very comfortable with mentioning that I feel like this, that I'm making you feel like that.
Yeah,
because it feels like I'm trying to make the other person feel guilty for making me feel this way, which is not 100% the intention behind it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a big thing. Well, I think in general, Asians are a very collectivistic culture, according to research. Asians, Singapore scores 20 out of 100 on the individualism scale. US is a 90 out of 100. So people in the US are much more likely to say, I, me, myself, and I feel, I think. Whereas in Asia, it's the same as China. It's like 20 out of 100. We all say, echoing what Jian Hao said in the meeting, we all, one would feel is like very indirect way of saying things. One person
body
would feel like whatever, and that's fine in a work context generally. But at certain points of time, as a person, you need to advocate for you need to take ownership for your views and not be ashamed about that. Right? That's actually part of adulting.
Yeah.
That's just part of adulting is being able to say that, look, when this situation happened, this behavior happened, the impact that had on me was this, and the impact I think it had on the team was that. Because feedback is always about, this is the situation, this is the behavior, this is the impact that from where I'm standing it created, and in future my request is whatever it is. Those are the 4 elements of it. There's one actually is in my book as well. The last part of like giving of that process is by saying, and the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I really care about our relationship. I really care about our working relationship. I really care about our team. I really want, and that's where the intention comes in, so that it's not just me, myself, and I. This is the bit where you say, this is from an intention of me wanting to support you, or me caring about our relationship, or wanting things to work.
Okay.
I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
One would be, any advice for introverted leaders? Because we spoke about introverted employees, right? What about introverted leaders?
Yes. So
Why lie?
Are you referring
are
to
you talking about yourself?
Yes and no. I think I am an extreme introvert, but over the years I've learned when to step up.
What are the key challenges that introversion tends to cause for you?
I just don't want to talk. I just don't like to talk.
You
to
find
people.
talking exhausting.
Yeah. No, I just find facing people's emotions exhausting.
Yeah.
Like when there are a task at hand, oftentimes I do not want to be put in a position where I have 30 people in front of me, and I have to individually look at their faces and care about what they are feeling at certain points.
So it's interesting because you're like in the business of communicating to people on one level.
No, I think I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah,
to be
you are.
honest, but it's not necessarily what I like, or it's not necessarily
It's not his favorite thing to do.
My therapist says, I like people in theory, not in practice. Right. I identify 1000% with you, because in my work as well, every day I'm dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people, you know, and like, after you just feel like this whole empathy deficit, like you've been giving all this life force to everyone, and then you just need some of it for yourself. So advice for introverted leaders. Number one, introverted leaders have a lot of advantages as well. There's a lot of research that shows that introverted leaders are more likely to be creative. And introversion is actually very closely linked to creativity, by the way. They are less likely to be influenced by groupthink.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a really strong advantage. And oftentimes creative work is best done independently, not in a collaborative situation. And there's, again, very well researched studies on this. So number one piece of advice also, you know, make a list of your strengths that the introversion gives you, so that you don't feel bad about being an introvert. Number two, you want to make sure that you have proper self-care routine and boundaries, because most of the time what makes introverts cranky is that dealing with people takes a lot of life force from them. Yeah.
Yes.
So that means that before you can't give from an empty well.
100%.
Yeah. So if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to impact all your team. It's going to make you cranky. It's going to make you unreasonable. It's going to make you all of that, right? So introverts really have to know their limits and also put in place a good strategy. So if you know that this week, wow, you're doing 5 public speaking events, right? Then you need to price in your calendar, like all the self-care you're going to do to yin and yang balance out all that energy that you're giving. So so second thing is self-care, right? And making sure that self-care is a freaking priority. It is like as important as a business appointment. It goes in the calendar. Yeah. And make sure that there's certain boundaries, like I'm not going to do 3 days of whatever in a row. If I don't like it, I'm going to do maximum 2, whatever a week. Whatever those policies are, make sure that you have that priced in, so that there is a system of taking care of yourself, so you won't be cranky. Okay. Then the third thing as an introvert is to actually practice a little bit more empathy and challenging yourselves to have these little empathy mini micro challenges. So for example, when somebody comes into the lift the next time, can you challenge yourself to say hi to them and smile at them? Or when you go and order your Starbucks next time, can you just challenge yourself to say, hey, how's your day, to the barista? So like each one of these little human encounters, you're just going to give yourself a little nudge to get out of, to go a little bit more into relationship than you would ordinarily do. And over time, as I always say, it's a training muscle tone. The more you actually get used to kind of like overriding your comfort impulses of just like, oh, okay, whatever, and actually pushing yourself a little bit more in the direction of curiosity and, wondering what's going on for the other person, and the curiosity muscles get activated, the more, you're going to be better at connecting to other people. Yeah.
Right. So basically, as they say, F around and find out.
Yeah, but I mean, on a very conscious level, like many of the introvert CEOs that I work with, they set themselves very specific targets. like one CEO I know is a CEO of a biopharma company. It's so introverted, and he said that like if there was a new person on the team, he would just like always just try to kind of like just hide away or whatever. But he makes it a practice now that every single newcomer to the team, he's going to make sure his secretary schedules a one-on-one with him and that person, and he has at least 15 minutes, 20 minutes just to welcome that person and all of that. And all of these are like systems,
right? Yeah,
that
that's
we
good
can
practice.
build in. Yeah, and for us, it like as introverts, because I also identify as an ambivert or introvert. It's about making sure that the systems catch you when the motivation is low, because your
Right.
motivation is impossible to always be high
Yeah,
motivation.
100%.
And the research shows this. A lot of people are like, hey, how do you be motivation high? It's like impossible. Research shows that even within the day, your willpower and motivation goes through a cycle where it's high at certain times, low at certain times, whatever. So the research shows that the more important thing than trying to motivate yourself to whatever, be extrovert or whatever it is, the more important thing is actually systems. It's systems rather than motivation. When your motivation is low, how can you build a system that's going to catch you?
And ensure you're disciplined to
Yeah.
complete your task.
Whether that is making sure your self-care, you get a massage once a week, everything's in the calendar, whether there's a policy when there's a new person coming, you're going to whatever, make sure you have systems that are going to catch you. Otherwise, you just be like, doing the like path of least resistance.
Right. Yeah, that's great advice for introverts. Make sure you have a system.
Yeah, because normally introverts are also quite logical. So if
Yeah.
you give them like systems, they'll be like, okay, this is my system.
This makes sense.
Yeah,
for
this
me.
makes sense.
It's comfortable.
Yes.
You have to be quite organized to have a system in place like that, right?
Well, you can have somebody like a EA.
Oh yeah, we can
Just,
have-
yeah,
Yeah.
help you get organized as well.
Okay, book the massage later.
I will book your next appointment for our next batch of in.
Okay, so the final question.
Uh-huh.
You work with a lot of CEOs, right?
Yeah.
So you know the ins and outs of many companies in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
How's a 4-day work week looking like?
I was about to ask that question as well.
Just in the
Yeah.
next year or two, people
Yeah.
have been talking
How
about it. The
realistic
news has
is
been
it?
sharing.
Yeah.
How's it looking?
For certain sectors, they're really scared about it, because for certain sectors, it's like for example, manufacturing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they just, or F&B, how you going to work remotely sort of thing, right? So I think for those sectors, it will definitely be very hard. But the tech sectors, the ones that already have been implementing 3-day work, and remote work 2 days or unlimited leave policies, and that sort of startups and tech, I think are more flexible about these sort of things. In Singapore, like, a huge percentage of our population work for SMEs
Yes.
and civil service or public sector. And so SMEs, I think, will be a little bit difficult because, like you pointed out, it's always like resource constrained. They want to kind of like get the most bang for their buck. And, the SME managers tend to micromanage more than other companies. But I think what will make the big difference is if public sector comes out, and the government's been talking so much about mental health support, burnout, because they can see the stats really are very
Yeah.
scary. Like, my husband's a psychologist, right? He'll tell you like up to 40% of the workforce is experiencing anxiety, depression, or burnout. It's like 40%, 4 out of 10 employees have got mental health issues that are serious and concerning, right? And this percentage is just rising. So at some point of time, because Singapore government is very pragmatic, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, wow, this is impacting productivity, it's impacting turnover and all of this. And, we just can't go on like this. And I think when the public sector or government comes out and says, look, we have to take this mental health seriously and link it not just to like, lunch and learn or yoga budget or whatever, but actually mental health is about having the basic fundamentals, work-life balance, sanity, being able to work in a way that's actually humane, and maybe a 4-day work week comes out of that. I think it'll be something that's interesting to see. But I do think that certain parts, not all, but I think certain parts of public sector are interested
Yeah.
in that.
But if resilience is a muscle that can be trained, then let's say if 5-day work week becomes 4-day work week, wouldn't muscles be loosened and then these issues start to appear? Like these anxiety, burnout. within 4 days, and then it would be
Then it will be
the
3
same
days, and then you'll
issues,
just
yeah, and
get
then-
lesser and lesser.
1 day work week.
Well, life is always a balance, right?
Yeah.
I think currently
It's imbalance.
Currently we are too much into like overworking people already, and I don't think it's sustainable. Currently, the mantra in all the corporates is do more with less, do more with less, and they're all saying like, oh, okay, you know, well, especially this year because so many people have been sick. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like any one point of time, like 20% of the team is like off, right? And then there's also so many people quitting and all of this, right? So every single large corporate that I work with is understaffed, has too little manpower, has 40% too many projects than they sustainably have, and they're just killing the existing workforce, and it's resulting in something double-digit turnover rates, right? And when anyone leaves a company, it costs the company about 8 to 10 months, if indirect and direct costs, 10 months of their salary to replace them in terms of like indirect and direct costs.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how much it costs. So it's actually a real impact if you're going to burn out your staff.
Right.
So I don't know if it's going to be 4-day week or 4.5-day week or maybe 3 days in the office, 2 days flexi work. But I think we are right now at the tipping point where companies and government is realizing that we can't go on with this overwork because it's actually leading to hard profitability impact. We're actually starting to see costs hit the bottom line, safety issues, quality issues in manufacturing,
Birth rate
fatalities,
decreasing.
birth rate, all of this. These are hard ROI. So, you know, whatever. So last time it used to be like, wow, you know, mental health and like all of this is burnout. It's just a soft and fluffy thing. But now we're seeing it hit the bottom line. And this is where people will wake up
Like
and
there's
make
physical
changes.
impact
Yeah.
of all these
Yeah.
consequences.
Would we
Yeah.
need to have a 4-day school week if we move towards a 4-day work week?
3-day weekends.
3-day
Woo!
weekends. I mean, the teachers have to work 4 days as well, right?
You know, MOE had this initiative called Teach Less, Learn More. Yeah, some years ago.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah,
Yep.
Yaya should know.
Yeah, you should
but you
know.
know, actually, what would happen was really interesting, right? Typical Singapore style. They're like, okay, we're going to reduce the teaching hours because you know kids and teachers do stress out, whatever. What actually happened? The hours were reduced, but the curriculum stayed the same.
So-
and now people had to cram so much into so little teaching hours that what happened is that the tuition industry had a renaissance. Everybody was like, you know, booking tuition and the kids to cope with all of it.
More
So-
homework,
yeah, more homework
assignments.
and more, you know, and of course the lower income kids lost out because they couldn't afford the
right.
tuition. And now you still have the same curriculum. So Singapore, like, you know, in one way, it's like you can't have your cake and eat it. If you already want 4-day work week, are you comfortable with 4-day results? You know, productivity. If you really want to teach less, are we really going to be okay with cutting down the curriculum by 20%? But you cannot say do less, do more with less. Because my fear for the 4-day work week is that you're still going to hit all the deliverables. I don't care how you do it.
But you have
4-day
less
work week,
time.
But now you have less time. So like that doesn't work. We've seen it not work in education. So I don't want that same thing to happen in the workforce.
Understandable.
So if the task for a 4-day work week is supposed to be less, then would the salary be expected to be less?
I mean,
Asking a lot of very difficult questions today. Yeah, so I think actually the younger generation, we are seeing a trend where they are willing
Oh,
to
yes.
accept less. And money isn't as much as my generation, like, wow, more money will do more. How high? I will jump how high, you know? Like now the younger generation does seem to want that flexibility and say that, you know what, I don't need to have a big house. I don't need to buy a car. It's not like the 5 C's, the status symbols that we all, like my generation, all must have this. I think in a way, from what I can see, the younger generation is more about experiences and values and meaning and purpose than it is about just like
Material.
money. Yeah,
That's so nice though.
yeah, totally.
Like I've never felt that way, but it would be nice to be in such a position.
Yeah.
It's actually a very nice outlook on life.
The CEO of Sanofi was, I was just reading an article where he was talking about how he asked a young employee in his company, like, what's your dream job? And the young guy said, I don't dream of jobs.
Oh,
You know, I
have a dream, but my dream is nothing related to a job. Kind of.
my dreams are bigger than just this small fraction of my life.
Wow.
And during my time, it was like dream job. Your life is your job, your
Even
work,
my
hustle,
time.
your whatever, But now I'm like so
Starting to
blown
feel
away.
old.
Yeah, because I
You
don't-
can feel the generation
Yeah, I'm starting to
gap,
feel
right?
old. I can't relate to that.
yeah, it's like, what is it for if I'm like killing myself? And I think COVID, in a way, there's this term called post-traumatic growth, where research has shown that after big traumas like wars or hurricanes and disasters, right, there is a phenomenon called post-traumatic growth that people go through, whereby after the disaster, they start actually evaluating what is the meaning of my life? What is it all for? Maybe they've seen relatives being lost. Maybe they've seen people die. Maybe it puts things in perspective. And they actually, post-traumatic growth is characterized by people being more willing to make big decisions because they're shaken out of their inertia. Yeah. And secondly, also they're starting to use this time as an audit. What do I really care about? What really matters to me? And this whole COVID has been a reawakening for many people. I think not just young, but so also like people across all generations. And I think for us Singaporeans, we're still like a little bit behind. Like Great Resignation wise, everyone was resigning all around the world, and then people in Singapore, no lah, doesn't apply to us. But I was like, you wait, because Singaporeans are the type that they want to resign, but they will wait.
Scared.
They're scared. They will
Yeah.
think. They will self-doubt. They will make
We're
plans.
always a few months behind.
Yeah, we
in
are very,
everything.
very behind. But I think I've seen it as much here as in the rest of the world. We are all going through this collective soul searching and try to figure out that in terms of this big portfolio called life, how much of it should work really occupy? And is work just my job? Or maybe work is a portfolio of interests, like being a YouTuber and having a job and trading crypto and this and that, and all these things are work, as well. So we're kind of like going through this really interesting paradigm shift where, the future of work is going to look nothing like
the
what it's been.
definition of work
Yeah.
is no longer just your job. The
Yeah.
definition of work
Yeah.
is also like your passion projects,
Yes.
is your various hobbies and
Yes.
things like that also equate to what
Yeah.
we now call work.
And your creative pursuits and the content you put out and everything is like, yeah.
Cool. That's all. That's all.
That's
the
a very
questions I have.
powerful statement to end off. Like now it's like the next podcast should be what is work? No, I'm just kidding.
I could go on, but
Yeah.
we're gonna stop here.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It was supposed to be
Yes.
20 minutes, but I feel like I could talk to you all day because
Yeah.
you're so
Yeah, it's so insightful.
Thank
There's
you.
really so much that we have learned from today. I'm sure there are things that we can find in your book, but like really getting like face value advice and information is a whole other level. It's
Yeah.
also curated.
A lot of
and
stuff she said
personalized.
really hits home.
Yeah.
Like whatever she said, I'm like, I went through this.
I'm like, that
This
makes
is my
so
life.
much sense.
I had that post-traumatic growth.
growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, because you quit after
Yeah, because I quit after COVID,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like,
He
I started
realised-
re-evaluating my life and all that.
It gi-
Epiphany.
a crisis gives you permission to do a lot of things.
Yeah, right. You're
And
right.
when
You're
we
right.
go through big crises, whether it's a divorce or death in the family or whatever, it's like, the Greeks had two words for time, kairos and chronos. Chronos was just second after second, minute after minute, that kind of clock time. But this other word they had for time called kairos was God's time. It was used to define those crucial moments in your life where all the doors swing open and your time hangs suspended in that moment. And in that moment, you're called to make a choice. Which of these 100 doors are you going to step through? And these are, what we call kairos times. There are times where we are now called to actually decide not just what we want to do, but who do we want to be? That's the more important question.
When I saw your TikToks, I knew you were intelligent. I thought you were intelligent, but like having conversations with you in real life, like not just 30-minute TikToks, it's like it can go on and on. So yeah, if you guys want to look for Crystal, we'll leave her TikToks and Instagram in the
And
description
YouTube
below.
channel now.
YouTube channel.
Yes.
There's a YouTube channel.
It
Cool.
was kind of dormant for a while, but I reinvigorated it, and I'm going to be more disciplined about it.
Yeah.
And of course, do check out the book that she and her husband, Dr. Crystal Lim-Lange, wrote, Deep Human. Practical
Yes.
super skills for a future of success.
Yay! Thank
Yay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
thank you,
much.
thank you.
This was so much fun.
Thank
It's so
you.
insightful.
yeah. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my god, very pricey.
No, it's okay. like take it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like my brain is still.
All right, so that's all we have for this podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys have any more questions for Crystal, let us know in the comment section down below, and maybe we'll bring her back for session 2. Right?
I'll bring your husband as well.
Oh, yeah, bring
bring
your
your husband.
Who's a therapist?
He's been feeding me all the answers in my left.